Sonic Underground Episode 9, Tangled Webs. And it doesn't have anything to do with actual webs, unfortunately. It's a shame because the rest of the episode titles have been accurate so far. We see a smoke-spewing SWATbot factory that the heroes are planning to destroy. It doesn't make sense that Robotnik would automize it by having factories automatically building a bunch of robots, because that would be a lot faster than him building a robot by himself every single time. But that also leaves him vulnerable because, what if the factories get destroyed? They're entire buildings that can be blown up. And they're automated. But, yeah, that's the thing. Like, we don't see people working in the factories. So the heroes can get away with destroying them without having to get people out of there. Like, but I guess Sonic would just carry the people out of there, and it would just take him a bit longer, so it wouldn't really matter. But the point is, if Robotnik was making robots one by one himself, then the heroes wouldn't be able to just go to a factory and destroy it. They'd have to go to his base, which might have better security than a factory that should still have a ton of security anyways. Sonic's the main part of the plan that his siblings have to wait for, and Manic is being read instructions from a convenient book for when to deploy a flying device. Where'd they get this technology stuff? We should have seen Manic steal it from Robotnik. It doesn't feel satisfying because there's no rotor, so I don't know. Like, the technology devices are symbolic of the usefulness of the person who makes them, but we don't know who made them here. We see some people who clearly aren't roboticized in a bar throwing darts at a dartboard of Robotnik. So are they all rich or fugitives hiding from roboticizing robots? They have an entire bar to themselves, so that robots haven't found and destroyed yet. I doubt all of them can pay the tax, and there's no knothole. I thought that was the whole point of why Sonic's parents why couldn't they just go here and hide? If there was an entire underground for them to hide in. I guess it wasn't built up yet back then. It's also said that Sonic took out a processing plant. By the way, the underground is supposed to be in the sewers, apparently. Would people eventually get sick from the fumes of being around the sewers all day? And, like, Sonia seems to be the only one complaining about how disgusting the sewers are. That's kind of unrealistic. I think even the poor would hate the sewers and the smell and stuff. And Robotnik says that 3 factories in 4 weeks were destroyed. Wow, the show is really overcompensating for how worthless the heroes' efforts were seen to be against them. Because now all of a sudden the heroes are actually doing stuff, but it's all off screen. And instead, make way for them trying to chase a lead to their mother again. I don't see what Sonia and Manic had done to help Sonic earlier. The bounty hunters see an airship on camera footage, with Dingo still having a crush on Sonia. Seriously, are they both teenagers? It feels like Sonia's 13 and he's an adult, because one's much taller than the other. But I still find it more sympathetic of him this way, that he's kind of fond of one of the heroes. Especially since Sleet lectures him that she's still the enemy. So, like, he could have a bit of a weakness for her, and she can manipulate that. After Sonia seems to shoot a laser at something computer-like, and she smiles despite being annoyed at Manic taking off to attack a factory, we see Manic with headphones on, and a floating device shoots lasers in a dark room. Sonia looks through sunglasses things, and her camera feed goes off, and she gets kidnapped by the bounty hunters. Coincidentally, Sonic instantly shows up to Sonia where she's kidnapped. I guess he was told to come here specifically by the bounty hunters as a trap. Sonic spins in a tornado to knock everyone over, and Sonia arbitrarily says that's all Sonic's fault and he can't just show up whenever he feels like. So did they screw up because he was wasting time in a bar? Sonic runs around and topples over a factory tube of liquid, sending some robots away. Soon, the whole factory is covered in yellow liquid, and the villains get stuck in an elevator briefly trying to evacuate the place. They're the only organic beings that I've seen in this factory. Sonic would have a harder time destroying the factory this way if he knew that there were either organic beings or innocent Robobians in the factory that he would kill by destroying the factory outright. And Robotnik's not doing this. Why doesn't he just destroy all of the factories then, if it's so easy? Sonic then starts stealing some red stuff that's not immediately obvious what it's good for, and drops a few of them when running away. If anything, they look like giant red crayons. Then the factory explodes in front of the heroes after a delayed reaction where Sonia nagged about it. I guess the red stuff was some bombs, but they didn't look like bombs, and it was awful convenient of them to be there for Sonic. Why did Sonia call Sonic insufferable? He succeeded. She's probably annoyed and jealous that he gets stuff done while not caring at all and worrying her. Sonia lampshades that Sonic did nice work on his own as usual. She should be just as competent as Sonic is. Then Sonic has a nice brotherly moment with her because he says that she at least offered him a chili dog. And it turns out that Sonia pranked Sonic by giving him a tofu chili dog. So she really is mad at him. Sonia calls out Sonic, saying that his siblings were captured because he didn't follow the plan. He was late and he improvised. Sonia says that they could have been put in prison, and prison clothes are terrible because she looks awful in gray. As opposed to orange. I thought it was orange jumpsuits. Was this just a 90s thing? Mobius sure is different. It's good that Sonic's being punished for a mistake thanks to his flaws. An old friend of Sonic's from off-screen, Cyrus, tells the heroes that Robotnik is forcing his family to make a roboticizer. His family should have stuck to the underground where they were more safe. And he says that he got a hologram projector because he's friends with a thief in the underground. He doesn't like to talk about where he got it from. So the underground is probably this show's knothole. It's where the poor hide from Robotnik. And even the middle class are poor since they can't get jobs. Then just as I'm wondering why Robotnik doesn't find the underground from his robots searching every inch of the city all the time, some robots shooting lasers threaten Sonic and he spin dashes at them. It's not that safe of a hiding place if the robots can show up there at any time. Why not show up when everyone's asleep and Sonic's not there? I could understand if it could be sent to another dimension at will by some magical stone. Cyrus runs away and tells Robotnik through his hologram projector that this wasn't part of the plan and they had a deal. Robotnik tells him to be a hero and gain their trust. This is another instance of mature writing where he has a good reason for working for Robotnik and he's still a good person. Sonic plays a chord and shoots a laser at robots from his guitar, and the siblings get surrounded by wire-shooting vehicles to tie them up. Then Cyrus shoots paralyzing lasers at the vehicles so they can escape, and he says that his father had invented that device. Or was it Robotnik? He keeps shooting these lasers, and Sonic takes off in a tornado to hit some lasers in purple tanks. Why would Robotnik use purple tanks? It's a girly color. I mean, Sonic is the most competent, so I can understand him doing all the work, not slowing himself down. I don't think we see Sonia capable of spin dashing. She has spines too. Maybe she should be able to do that, or is that just hair because she's a girl? I guess the heroes are plenty competent on their own, so they don't really need to have Cyrus in every episode with his paralyzing laser. But he could give him their laser. Oh, we do see Trevor again. Not that he does anything important. The heroes go across a bridge to go to Safe Haven, and Cyrus is surprised to hearing Sonia say that it's where they keep the kids, and he doesn't want to do this. Why don't they keep everyone in Safe Haven? Since I don't think robots attack it. I guess the Safe Haven is a really small place geographically. And it's not like underground needs to be near the city, like below the city, because then the thieves can go out of the underground and start stealing to get their necessities. Safe Haven doesn't have access to the city. Robotnik wants to destroy Sanctuary, and we see some kids being entertained by Sonic and his siblings as they summon their instruments. After a completely pointless song for padding, Manic says that he just needs to program the coordinates he needs because a poor thief with no education apparently knows how to program. And the floating camera laser shooters will then go to where he wants them to go. So, is it because Sonia's instruction booklet tells him all about how to program? I hope so. Or maybe it's an extremely intuitive interface with the programming? Maybe he just needs to type in, go here, and that's all he needs to do? How did they get stuff like this? The show really needed a rotor. I doubt that Manic's supposed to be an engineering genius. This doesn't feel right. Who made these? They shouldn't have these at all. It's not said that they stole them from Robotnik, right? The heroes go to the sewers, and Sonia shows a holographic map that shows detection beams, which are why Sonic speed is needed. He's given some shades that would show him the beams. Again, more technology that they have for some reason, with no engineer of their own. I guess I should just calm down and pretend that these are made by Robotnik and they stole them from them. I thought they weren't going to do this. And he's told that each swap bot he detects, he should mark their location by hitting a button. I guess he doesn't have the ability to simply barrel through and destroy the swap bots, because that would be way too easy. I'd be wondering why he hasn't beaten Robotnik already by beating every swap bot ever. Sonia tells Sonic to stick to the plan, which worries me as obvious foreshadowing. And Sonic spins around in a blue tornado. At one point he goes right in front of a robot and it doesn't see or hear him. That is really stupid. Sonia tells Sonic to stick to the plan, and the poor person says that it's a setup, and Robotnik said he'd destroy his family if he didn't do what he said. However, Sonic goes through the trap anyways, when I would have expected him to be able to hear the guy's warning through a phone. And the other heroes get kidnapped by robots while Sonic avoids some lasers. Slee tells Robotnik that he has some hostages, and Sonic finds out what happened to his siblings. He's told that if he doesn't surrender immediately, his friends will be roboticized. Robotnik then shows Cyrus that one of his loved ones was roboticized for his conscience, and he makes me feel sorry for him with his reaction. Like he can't do anything about this. Robotnik says to power up the roboticizer. I guess it needing to be powered up ahead of time is good for balance. Because otherwise, why didn't he roboticize the heroes already? Well, this is why. Some flying laser shooters melt stuff and destroy the robots. Seriously, this would be a lot more satisfying if I knew how the heroes even got these things in the first place. I guess they need to have technology for any sort of a chance, but where'd they get them? Sonic uses the convenient devices to threaten the bad guys to escape, and then sprays the bad guys with harmless soot or whatever, instead of actually shooting them and killing them like would be remotely competent of a realistic freedom fighter to do. Like in the real world, we have freedom fighters, we have dictators getting overthrown, and we have, like, the French monarchy got deposed. It was all because people killed the tyrants, or at least imprisoned them. Sonic doesn't do that to Robotnik because that would end the series. I guess it's interesting to see how every episode's plot is going to be, but logically they shouldn't have even taken that long. Then Sonic and Sonia go to comfort Cyrus over his loss. This episode was about Robotnik threatening a poor kid named Cyrus into luring Sonic into a trap with a hologram of a person, just for a loved one of his to be roboticized anyways, being pointlessly cruel to a side character, like with Mandy. It is good to have Robotnik have villain moments where he's competent because he has permanent victories, but it needs to be balanced out properly by the heroes having permanent meaningful victories. And not, oh, Sonic was destroying a bunch of factories off screen in the past 4 weeks, but there's still robots around anyways. It's like they just realized now how ineffective the heroes were being and decided to overcompensate in the beginning. That kind of success shouldn't be restricted to being off screen. We're lucky we even saw Sonic destroy one swap-off factory. Though I guess they'd have to have him do it a different way every time to be interesting, because otherwise it'd be repetitive because it just does the same thing over and over. And because the show doesn't have enough continuity, should I even really care? Robotnik will always have swap bots. He'll never run out of them or suffer severe swap bot shortage, because then he'd have to leave the city and eventually come back with more robots, or Sonic would keep destroying his factories. But in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Robotnik could brainwash people, and so that's why I wondered why he didn't just rise to power. It wasn't just about he can build a robot army, it's also that Robotnik can roboticize. So he'll always have power because he has roboticized people who are doing what he says. But like, he'll never run out of the robots because then it wouldn't be status quo anymore. Who cares? That's the problem with having one major villain for the whole thing, rather than different villains every time or almost every time. You're wondering why the heroes don't just get rid of the one major villain and end the series. Especially since he shows up to them face to face, and Sonic had laser shooters floating right in front of him. Laser shooters that I'm not sure he even should have had. Did they steal them from Robotnik? Why did a convenient instruction book for them exist then? You'd think the laser shooters would be made by people who already know how to work them. Or would be made for people who would know how to work them. Like robots who would be programmed to know how to function them. The heroes just look like massive idiots by not doing the one obvious thing and taking down Robotnik. Because the show is not allowed to have continuity to acknowledge their roundabout ways of having victories that aren't doing that by having the factories stay destroyed. So it's annoying when Robotnik gets all the permanent victories he wants, being pointlessly cruel to any side characters that cross the heroes' path, and he always gets away with everything. It's a karma Houdini. Sure, he doesn't beat Sonic, but he might as well. But he does get away with everything else. And then the heroes get nothing that actually matters. He'll just rebuild his factories. How many of them are there? How many of them do they need to destroy to even make a difference? And with Sonic's super speed, I have a hard time believing it would take 4 weeks for him to destroy a few factories when destroying a factory is done in a pretty short amount of time. He just runs through it and causes toxin spills. It's not like the factories... Do the factories have really super security systems? Are they almost impossible to get into? Is that why it takes so long? Because they have to figure out how to get past it every single time? He destroyed it pretty quickly in the episode. At that rate, he should have beat Robotnik by now because he'd run out of robot factories and they'd go find and destroy all of his robots, thus forcing Robotnik to hide to make more. It sounds like such a simple solution that shouldn't take up too much time. Destroy the robot factories. Its entire building's dedicated to making robots. It's not like the buildings are also double timing as hospitals, and thus would have innocent civilians in them, and Sonic can't blow up the whole place. Like if he spilled yellow toxins in a building that's both a robot factory and a hospital, then the yellow toxins would be going towards the civilians. But that's not the case. So it's not made obvious just how much hard work it takes to set up the plan of figuring out how to destroy a factory by getting access to materials to do that and a map of the place. There's no clear reason for why it would take Sonic weeks to destroy just a few factories. Does he not know which buildings are robot factories until he finds a map of the city or something from Robotnik's computer? Are they secret? And they're normally locked with barricaded doors and walls that Sonic can't spin dash through or laser through with his guitar? I just can't help but notice these fundamental problems, whether this show or SatM, about what logistically taking down Robotnik as a dictator would require, and how easy that should actually be with Sonic around. Just get rid of his robots. But then there would still be roboticized, brainwashed to work for him people, and that's another problem that the heroes would have to solve. And that would be a lot more difficult, because you remove Robotnik from power, then he leaves for a little while, but then he makes more robots, and either way, he still has power because they're still roboticized. They should put a lot more focus on that, because who cares if they destroy factories? That's not going to get them a cure for roboticization. Without his robots, he would just send Robians at the heroes. Even without robots or Robians, he could still force regular people to be his armies. The Archaic Legion, anyone? then the heroes would go from beating robots to innocent people who were just his victims. So trying to remove all the factories and fighting his armies is pointless. He'll always have armies, so they should just shoot him. It kind of feels like it's forced to take forever because we need a series around it, which is pretty silly, and it's hard to take it fully seriously, get invested in it when you realize that why aren't they just killing Robotnik? Because they're not making it clear that, no, we need to cure roboticization too. I mean, it's not like Robotnik has a super impenetrable base that Sonic could never infiltrate to go kill him or drag him to prison. Because Sonic can just go to his siblings and Robotnik's personal base to save them when they're kidnapped whenever he wants. So why doesn't he just go there and beat Robotnik himself already and cut out the middleman? So that nobody can be ordering people to be roboticized anymore. This is why we shouldn't see kidnapped characters get sent to Robotnik's base. They should be sent somewhere else instead. Maybe Robotnik should be established to have multiple bases, and he could be anywhere. And like they could look similar so the artist doesn't have to try. He can build a lot of stuff, so let's pretend that that's what happens and he has multiple buildings and he only relaxed the security for the base this time because he wanted to lure Sonic to him for a trap where he was prepared because he went to rescue his siblings. Normally Sonic can't go up to him if he doesn't want to. But that's not outright explained. Like, this is the problem with having one villain most of the time. You get, like, as an adult, when you're thinking logically, you get so focused on why don't they just kill the villain, and you don't focus enough on the fact that even if they did get rid of the villain, people are still brainwashed and roboticized. And that's a problem that it makes sense that it would take a very long time to solve. You can't just snap your fingers and have a cure for roboticization. I really liked that it was said that the roboticizer needs to be powered up for a while first. So there was some justification at least for why he didn't roboticize the hostages like Cyrus right away. He just didn't have the time. Sonic's fast. And it was good to show Sonic as having a flaw by being impatient and loving improvising to the point where he screws up Sonia's plan. But it was frustrating to see him screw up and get people kidnapped. Twice at that. I feel sorry for them.